Friends, I come to you a little beleaguered and outside of my usual setup. I've had a tough couple of weeks, but today I want to thank everyone here for just being a huge part of my life this year. I met Eric Nowaslowski, and I can pronounce his last name, and we have been good friends. I met a handful of great, passionate people, Finn, Stefano, Giorgio, that are working with me now. You all are from LinkedIn. And so, thank you. Thank you for watching, for showing up, and for being interested and supporting me. It means the world. Today, we are going to talk about how to get anyone to reply to an email. And the great trick about this is you only have to think about one thing differently, and you have to follow only one process. So you need to think differently. You need to do what Eric and I do all the time, which is, what does the person you're sending an email care about? What matters to them? And then you need to find a way to give them what matters to them. You don't have to say shit about your product. It's not about your product. You just need to figure out, what do they care about? How do I get them that, ideally that information? This is where the large language models come in. And they will reply. A perfect example of this is, I had a customer that I gave away some free stuff to. So I guess they weren't a customer. They were a charity case. But they were using a competitor, and they hated the competitor. I said, why don't you just try me out for free for 3 months and see how it goes? And of course, they didn't have the budget to buy, which is why you charge people money. But then they came back, and or I knew when their other contract was expiring. And I just sent a note. I said, hey, I want to make sure that you cancel that contract because it was bad for you. I didn't have to say, remember me, who I am, and what I do, and what I'm about. I didn't have to do any of that stuff. They said, great, I want to be in contact in 2024. I want to work with you. That's how it works. All right, so let's dive into how to do this. So I'm going to start with Jordan GPT. You can copy the URL here. I'll drop it. But you don't really have to do much here. You just can... and who should we target today? Who is a good... Let's actually do my friends at Ocean.io. I like that team a lot. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to go to Ocean.io's webpage and figure out their ICP and persona. Now this is important because you want to know who you're emailing. So the first part of this process is to understand the person that you're emailing. And then I'm going to show you some tips about what to do about that next. So I'm going to just start typing the next prompt while this is going. What information? Now I want you to tell me the roles and responsibilities of the primary buyer of Ocean.io, keeping in mind their company, industry, role, and anything else that would be relevant to describe their top key priorities. Okay, so all I want to do now is, and I'm going to type out the next prompt here while it's still doing this. So all I'm trying to do is get an understanding of this persona. What do they care about? What matters to them? Now, I kind of cheated a little bit because I know Ocean.io's persona. So let's go ahead and just start typing the next prompt so we have it. Now, what information that likely exists on the internet would be most valuable to this person if summarized and structured? For example, a VP of marketing that just started might want to know what are the strengths of his product from his... Oh, no. I'm trying to adjust my pronouns from her... The strengths of her product from her competitors. And have that information summarized. All right. So, great sales is about service. It is about doing right by your customers. And the best way to take that into the first approach is to give them something that they care about, right? And if they find it valuable, they will understand the type of person you are, and they will generally be curious. And suddenly you instantly switch an outbound prospect to an inbound prospect. The whole mood changes. Eric and I talked about this the other day, that we have to run a totally different sales cycle for outbound prospects because they haven't spent time watching our LinkedIn content. They don't know us from a hole in the ground. They're evaluating us as a rando on the internet. Okay, so Jordan GPT has like a process that it usually follows, so I'm trying to get it out of that process. Okay, so once we do this, the only thing that we have to do is then figure out exactly how we can structure that information. So I'm walking you through a process to say, how do you figure out your buyer, or whoever your client's buyer is? How do you figure out what they care about, information they care about, like specifically for them, right? This is the whole idea behind white papers. Here's some generic shit for generic people, but information directly for them is what these large language models make possible. If you can do that, then you can figure out where the data sources are, and then you can orchestrate it usually with Clay. And so this process will allow you to contact your buyers with something actually useful to them, and in doing so, you'll get what you want most, which are not deals, they're replies. Replies are all you're seeking in a cold email. You ask too much. So that's why replies are sort of best here. All right, so basically I want to know what does this person care about that exists on the internet? Competitive analysis, right? We just talked about that, right? Customer feedback and reviews, we talked about that too. Yeah, G2, this is exactly what we can do in Clay. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Yeah. So I have some insight into these buyers, so I have kind of a cheat sheet. This is really interesting. Now what I want you to do is go to clay.com and specifically look at all of their data sources. And I want you to tell me from this information, what are the most relevant data sources that Clay has? And then afterwards, I want you to tell me what are the most relevant data sources for me to find this information, especially at scale. So what I'm doing here is I'm seeing what this buyer cares about. Now, competitive analysis, so I know that we can do this through Clay. So Clay will pull G2 reviews. So we can do this, and then weirdly enough, we can use Ocean.io's lookalike companies and find their biggest competitors using that feature programmatically. So I can not only send the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for Ocean reviews on G2, but I can do it for their competitors. Now, this is kind of interesting. One of the things that we could do is find luminaries in the space. So who are the people that are talking about trends and forecasts, like Chris Walker or Sam, who's the CEO of Pavilion is, right? So we can go find posts of theirs and summarize them. You can do that inside of Clay. Customer feedback and reviews. Again, G2, that's what we talked about earlier. This is super interesting. I don't have a really good idea about how to do this, but this would be really useful. Well, this actually, I probably could do this in my data looking at Apollo. Yeah, this is really helpful. Like, talking about some of the outreach stuff is pretty good, and some legitimate people's hot takes on this. Well, really, the Gmail and Yahoo changes in spam rules. This is really interesting. I actually could do this with my data. We're doing technology information, so I can say which similar companies using Ocean.io and what is their technology stack. This is also kind of interesting. So one of the things that you might ask ChatGPT to do is to go summarize regulatory and compliance recent laws that might apply to Ocean.io. Now, I don't know that the VP of Sales or Marketing is going to care about this. This is where, you got to use your own critical lens here. This is something I'm actually doing in my next product. So we're going to look at the case studies for company pages and then tell you from those case studies what are your best opportunities at those companies to expand. So once I do this, I'm going to know the data providers that I care about that are on Clay, so it's easy. I'm going to know the content that my persona cares about, and then I have what to say, because it's just a process of taking the internet, structuring it, making it easy for them. This could be the next version of these B2B white papers that you used to see in the 90s where they talk about industry trends. There is a lot of information online and not a lot of trusted information. And so if you can bring someone that is useful to them programmatically, you can earn their attention. Oh, visiting funnel.io. Interesting. I don't know why it's visiting funnel. What is funnel.io? Funnel.io. Oh, interesting. What happened? All right, well, I'm just going to end this here because you get the idea. But basically, the next thing I was going to do here in this chat, I could share this chat here, is to then go figure out what does the message look like, what does the structure of the information look like, what do they want to see it, what format. For example, this is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats here. So how should I deliver that is most easy to digest for that person? And then I have the playbook. Then all I have to do is execute it. Very easy to do with Clay. All right, have a wonderful Tuesday, December 5th, and thanks again. I appreciate you. Bye.